Welcome to Interview 360. I'm Vanessa Kamazzi. My guest today has explored many remote regions on Earth. As a primatologist, wildlife explorer, and author, she's made it her life's mission to be a champion of wildlife conservation. Dr. Mireya Mayor has earned the nickname the Female Indiana Jones for her wildlife explorations and scientific discoveries. Most notably, her co-discovery in finding the world's smallest primate. Hi, Mireya. So good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start right there. What is the world's smallest primate, and how and where did you discover it?
So the world's smallest primate is a mouse lemur, and my team and I were in northeastern Madagascar. We were actually on an expedition to study the larger lemurs there. But we were doing more of a census in this area, and so we were both really surprised when this tiny little creature climbed in there, and we thought, this looks different.
Oh my God, so cute! We've got the lemur in the bag.
And size-wise, I mean, we were talking, how much does a mouse lemur weigh? It's tiny.
It
literally.
weighs less than 2 ounces, and it fits in the palm of your hand. It is really, really small, with huge eyes because it's nocturnal.
They're
so it's kind of all eyes.
It's so cute to look at. It seems that would be every scientist's dream to discover a new species. Was that the eureka moment for you?
That was a huge moment, and it is every scientist's dream, but I never thought it would happen. It's not something I actually dreamt about. When it happened, I was shocked. Like, I couldn't believe it. So it was an incredible moment.
Right, because so much of what you do is about discovery, but equally as important is the conservation efforts.
I would say most of what I do is conservation effort. The discoveries sometimes happen by accident. Some of the best discoveries are by accident, and science is this string of failed experiments, right? But the conservation is something that I started off wanting to do primate behavior and research, and I always chose to study primates that were little known, rare, elusive. Some were thought to be already extinct, and many of them had never even been photographed. But when I started studying them, I thought, what do you do with all this information if they just vanish? What's the point of it? I can tell you this. So lemurs are the most endangered animal on the planet right now, and Madagascar has lost more than 90% of its forests. So that means that less than 10% of their habitat remains. So they're incredibly endangered, all of them, throughout Madagascar.
And you actually met with the Prime Minister of Madagascar to help find solutions to protect this mouse lemur, right?
Right. So this discovery gave us a huge opportunity. I went and met with the Prime Minister of Madagascar, showed him pictures and video, and he was so proud of this discovery, like this was only in his country, and he was really excited, and immediately he agreed to create a national park to protect them.
At the time, you were a Nat Geo correspondent, wildlife correspondent, the first female.
Yeah. While I was a wildlife correspondent with National Geographic, I happened to mention to a producer that I was heading back to Madagascar to continue my research because we suspected we'd found a brand new species of primate. And the next thing I knew, I had a film crew in tow. Like, they wanted to capture this moment, and they did. It was spectacular. And it really helped because then I had all these amazing National Geographic images and video to show the Prime Minister, and that, of course, sealed the deal for us to create a national park.
And I want to read what your bio says. You've survived poisonous insect bites, drank cow blood in Tanzania, shared a goat kidney with the Maasai warriors of Africa, and ingested leaves to calm down an angry 400-pound silverback gorilla in Congo.
It's a strange diet.
Right.
Obviously, I survived that.
Silverback is the dominant member of the group.
You've been in some real life or death situations. Any stories that you want to share?
There's so many stories, but so I was in my tent one night, and I heard footsteps just outside of it, and I suddenly realized that there was an elephant coming up to my tent, and that's actually one of the ways that many people have died in the forest is because forest elephants are very big, as you could imagine, and they trample through entire villages. And so I very quickly got out of my tent and sort of stood behind a tree, and then I made eye contact with this elephant who proceeded, he walked right up to my tent, sort of smelled around, did his thing, and then somehow turned around and walked back out. That was one. And, gorillas. I've been really close to a group and didn't know it. And one such day, there were all these sweat bees, and they were hovering all over my face, and they were going in my ears, and they were digging into my eyes. And I took my video camera and I flipped the screen and used it sort of as a mirror to dig out all these sweat beads out of my eyes. As I'm doing this, there was a silverback right behind me. It was almost like we were doing a selfie together before selfies were cool.
Before
right?
they existed.
So, it's like I said, there's this element of unknown unpredictability that is exactly why I love what I do.
Your nickname is the female Indiana Jones. How'd you get that nickname?
So I've had that nickname for, I think, the last 20 years. And it all, part of it is that people aren't used to seeing a woman at the forefront of field research, expedition, adventure, and sort of danger, right? It's always these khaki-clad men who are at that televisual forefront. So when I started appearing on TV, it was one newspaper that started this very catchy phrase, female Indiana Jones. And I think people could just identify instantly what I did, and it was catchy, and the media ran with it. So a few months back, I met Harrison Ford and had dinner with him, and I put on the Indiana Jones hat, took a photo with him, and I said, for the last almost 20 years, I've been referred to as the female Indiana Jones. So for just one night, you're going to be the male Dr. Mireya Mayor.
I love that. Reverse it on
absolutely.
him. In your book, you talk about how you're a former NFL cheerleader, the daughter of Cuban immigrants, girly girl, but also a tomboy, but really how the odds were sort of stacked against you to really be who you are today.
I think it was very unlikely that I would become what I am today. I grew up in a big city. I grew up in Miami, specifically an area called Little Havana. My parents are Cuban immigrants. I was the only daughter. My mom was super overprotective. And when I asked if I could join the Girl Scouts, she said, "Oh no, that sounds way too dangerous." So when I decided that this was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, I had this aha moment after I took this anthropology class at the University of Miami, and then I had never left the country, so I didn't have a passport. I had never even been camping, and I headed to one of the most remote, unexplored regions of South America in the Amazon for my very first expedition because, if you're going to do it right.
Absolutely. So why did you decide to write the book? And it's an autobiography, right? A memoir of your life. It's
called Pink Boots and a Machete, and the reason for that is I was generally the only woman on all of my expeditions. I wore pink boots because in the beginning I felt like I had to downplay my femininity, and there came a point where I decided, I am just as accomplished as all these other men and women. There's no reason for me to downplay the femininity as if that was some sort of a strike against me. So I played it up, and I wore these flashy, bright pink boots, and I always had a machete at my hip because I was 99% of the time really going through very dense jungle and unexplored regions that I had to hack my way through to make a path. It's not like there was a path already there for me. So Pink Boots and a Machete represents sort of who I am, and I hope also sends the message to other girls, little girls, women, that you can do whatever you want and you can be all things. You can be that NFL cheerleader. You can be the scientific explorer. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
You're also a mother of 6, is that right?
That's correct. And that's one of the most frequent questions that I get asked at my lectures is, how do you have 6 kids? How do you do it all? And how do you find the balance? And the truth is there is no balance. When I'm at home, my work suffers, I'm missing the wilds. When I'm working in the wilds, I'm missing my family and my kids. But it is about finding what's right for us. And I have 5 daughters, and my girls now know that they could have both. They can have the family, they can have the dream. And I think that's really important.
Right. Jane Goodall wrote the foreword to your book, which is very impressive. What's your relationship like with Jane?
So, I've idolized Jane since I was a little girl. And I met her for the first time several years back. and I literally lost my ability to speak. Like, she was right in front of me. This was the moment, and I couldn't say anything because I was so awestruck, and I don't get awestruck very easily. So when I finally mustered up the courage after several meetings, if she would write the foreword to my book, and she very generously and kindly agreed. When I read what she wrote and drew so many parallels between me and her and how much I reminded her of herself and especially growing up and all of these different things, I was speechless yet again.
What an honor.
Because this is my idol. I mean, she's an incredible woman. She's done so much to raise awareness, and she's done so much for the natural world, and really inspired so many people to continue in that legacy. And she just turned 85 years old, and she is still 300 days out of the year out and about exploring, inspiring, talking to large audiences about why it's so important to try and protect our planet. She's a force.
85 years old and still going strong. She's a remarkable woman.
She really is.
It's fun to talk about all the travel and exploration, but you're a Fulbright scholar. You are a researcher. You're a scientist. So there's so much hard work.
It's something that, when I first get an idea for where I want to go, I'm not basing it because it's some magical destination, luxurious. Not at all. I mean, field work is incredibly hard. There's diseases. There's all of these things kind of fighting against you when you're out there.
All of a sudden, this storm,
it goes from cold and rainy all day to hailstorms and lightning storms, and you run out of food on expeditions. I choose places that I feel are top priority for conservation in the same way that I choose the animals that I want to study because they're top priority for conservation. They're the ones that we might lose very soon and that we know very little about and that sort of carry little hope. And those are the ones that I want to go out and study, and usually they're in the toughest places to study. It's a lot of work, but I love what I do, and I don't even feel like it's a job for me. I feel like I'm an explorer. It's not what I do, it's who I am. The truth is I would rather, I would not want to be anywhere else.
So I think it's very important, the message that you're sending, that this is really about passion and purpose, and a really nice reminder to go after your dreams, no matter where you come from, no matter what's expected of you, but to just go out and do it. So
that's exactly it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for watching this edition of Interview 360. We'll see you again next time.